el exec, el Vélez, el fenómeno que todos quieren ser, el chamaquito que no pueden entender.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to episode 134 of the Exec Talk podcast. I'm your host, Avalez. Welcome. Little quick hitter here, man. Really quick hitter before college football starts. I'm going to give you guys my predictions for today and tomorrow and Monday. We're going to talk about what happened on Thursday a little bit with Colorado. We're going to talk about the Brendan Aiyuk contract. We're going to talk about a little bit about Steph Curry getting the $62.5 million for a year. We're also going to talk about Mike Williams for the Jets cleared for week 1. That's a big deal. Hollywood Brown not playing in week 1 for the Chiefs against the Ravens. That's going to be interesting. That means Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce are going to have more on their plate, as well as Isaiah Pacheco. Not thinking that will throw them completely out of rhythm, but against that Ravens vaunted defense, not having one of your top 2 receivers on the outside will be something challenging for Andy Reid to figure out. Other than that, let's get right into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is this Brandon Aiyuk contract. I said that it would be around $28 to $30 million. It turned out to be $30 million, 4 years, $120 million, $100 million guaranteed. I see as what he did, if I'm being really honest, is basically I didn't want to go to training camp, so I'm just going to hold out or hold in. And I'm not going to go to training camp. That's literally what I see. The Brandon Aiyuk contract really didn't worry me because they have somebody way more important looming, and he hasn't signed anything. And if he doesn't play week 1 and he starts missing games, it's gonna definitely affect the lookout and the season for the 49ers, and that's being Trent Williams, best left tackle in the league. Still hasn't shown up to nothing, the OTA, nothing. So, he's a veteran. He's 36 years old, so he doesn't have to show up to training camp necessarily. Like I said in the last pod, he's a freak of freaks in the NFL, but at the same time, like, that is your best player, your energy guy, the guy that leads your team along with Debo out to the field. When you lost him last year for 3 games, it did not look pretty. So if you guys still want to be that 12 to 13 win team, possibly 14 or more, you need Trent Williams, because whoever's behind him is not even reaching the ankles of Trent Williams. When it comes to pulling, when it comes to, defending the rush, it is not looking good for that offensive line. But they got Aiyuk in the fold for 4 years. Good, because then they can finally, him and Debo could keep being a compliment to each other. Opens up Kittle on the side, and then CMC will always have a light box to be in, because even if CMC's running roughshod all over you, you really don't want to give Brock Purdy any in the middle throws, mid throws where he could hit Debo or Aiyuk, and the yak comes in. So very, very, very good signing. Very good signing, but at the same time, if you look at it, I think Trent Williams is a lot more important. A lot more important. All right, moving on to Mike Williams being cleared for week 1. This means that Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Breece Hall, they will all be on the field for Aaron Rodgers in week 1. Does this change something? If he's completely healthy, it does, because it completely takes out the double team to Garrett Wilson. You are not shading a safety to Garrett Wilson's side, knowing that you have a legit deep threat over your head top Moss guy in Mike Williams, especially in the last 30 yards, what we call high red zone, in the red zone for sure, but like high red zone, 35 to 30, 25 right there, even shot plays where you get like by the logo, 50, 45, 40 yard line. You're not shading that safety to Garrett Wilson. It doesn't matter if he's going for $150 and 2 touchdowns already. If you shade that your free safety to Garrett Wilson's side, you will get a 1-to-1 matchup to Mike Williams, and Aaron Rodgers is going to put it on the money, and Mike Williams is going to go get that. So, coming back from the ACL injury, I think it's going to be very interesting to see that team, how the dynamic plays out. It's all going to It's gonna come down to offensive line play. If I'm being really honest, that's literally what it's gonna come down to. If let's say if Aaron Rodgers gets anywhere from 2.5 to 3 seconds to throw consistently, this team is gonna be really good. Another risk that defenses has to deal with is what if Breece Hall is just cooking you? What if he's just dicing you up through the middle? Hitting you with screens, hitting you with bubbles, hitting you with angle routes. Are you going to put in a heavy box and then really test your corners and really test your safety? I don't think so. I don't think that you would really do that. I think Garrett Wilson is the happiest to hear that Mike Williams is on the other side, because then he knows that he could just cook his matchup, and most likely there won't be a second level defender there. Unless defense is nuts and decides that Mike Williams is not that much of a threat. So we'll see how healthy Mike is towards that. Colorado versus North Dakota State Thursday. We saw our first glimpses of Travis Hunter and Shadeur Sanders on their Heisman quest and their number 1 draft pick quest. 7 catches, 132 yards, 3 touchdowns for Travis Hunter. I mean, what can you say about this kid? I don't know if he can play both sides in the NFL. I think that it takes way too much time. You have to be so much of a specialist in the NFL, even at positions like wide receiver, right and corner. You never see there's only a few guys at wide receiver who could do everything. I'm looking at a guy like maybe, Amon-Ra, that could do everything, has speed, but not elite speed, but can still get away from you, but has the yak ability and everything like that. Travis, I see a more like I don't want to put him in this elk, but this is the type of body he kind of has. Even though he's 6'2", he looks a little bit like the way he moves. It looks like he's a natural wide receiver. So he really moves like Marvin Harrison Jr. When he's just a little bit more explosive after the catch, definitely before compared to Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a deep threat, can run any route and everything like that. But when it comes to yak, that's why Malik Neighbors was favored in that sense, coming out of the draft. But what I like about Travis Hunter is, like, when it's third down, when you need a big play, this man's there. And, 1 touchdown was was literally a hitch route. He caught it, too much separation between him and the corner. Safety takes a horrible angle. I mean, like, dead set on hitting him. And he literally just spins out, basically catches the ball, spins inside, and uses his speed. He catches that touchdown. On the second touchdown, Shadeur looks off the safety, throws Travis in the back of the end zone. Travis, being a DB himself, knows that his cornerback is over leveraged. He just stops on a dime, sheds him, touchdown, back of the end zone. And then the third touchdown, which was the one to essentially ice the game, because this was a close game because their defense is still garbash me spash like last year. But The last touchdown was ridiculous. If you guys go on Twitter or on X and you see the still picture of him catching the ball on that third touchdown, this man's not looking at the ball because he has a forearm in his face, literally like across his face. He's just reaching out, catches it with one hand and brings it in for a third touchdown. Some incredible feats of athleticism. The guy's different. He played 132 snaps. They're like 122. I don't think he could do that in the NFL, but at the same time, like Dion said, hey, this is going to be probably the top 5 picks, and they're not going to this team. There's certain teams. He's going to be Eli Manning. He's going to supposedly try to force their way to certain teams, because if Travis Hunter goes to the Patriots, I feel bad for Travis Hunter. If Shadeur Sanders goes to the Patriots, I feel bad for Shadeur Sanders, even though they have Drake May, and I don't think that they'll go for quarterback next year, even though they're going to be horrible. But, so you got Shadeur Sanders throwing for 445 yards and 4 touchdowns. Shadeur looks like a number 1 quarterback. He's slated to be the number 1 quarterback pick next year. Travis is slated as of right now to be the number 1 pick and the Heisman favorite. His odds went down 1,000, so it was plus 5,000 at the beginning of the game. At the end of the game, there was plus 2,500. So it went down 2,500. So the people thought that 3 touchdown line plus the 3 tackles, playing good corner. It's going to be interesting to watch Travis if he stays healthy. This team, though, people are saying that it's not good because of the defense. They still have problems in the offensive line. They can't run, and their schedule is pretty tough. They got Nebraska next week, so that's going to be interesting. And then the unsung hero of Thursday's game was Jimmy Horn Jr., fastest guy on their offense. The guy legit looks like he runs a 4.3, low 4.3, maybe a 4.2. I don't think a 4.2, but it looks like it on the field the way he runs. He caught 7 balls for 198 yards and a touchdown, and it was quiet. I believe he caught the second touchdown of the game on a crossing route where Shadeur was like getting pressured, almost got hit, and right before he let the ball go, he was about to get hit and drops a dime while it was basically a Tyreek Hill type of. It was basically like a Tyreek Hill type of play with Mahomes used to, when it was like Tyreek is crossing the field and, Mahomes looks like he's just throwing it up there for grabs and Tyreek runs under it and he just hits the corner and he's gone. That's basically what it was on a 70-yard pass touchdown. So Colorado, exciting to watch, but the defense is the offensive line when it comes to the running game is and it was a good test. North Dakota State, perennial FCS championship team, nine national titles. But it's offensively they're going to be great. They're going to be exciting. Can Shadeur and Travis stay healthy? And at the same time, could you do enough on defense so that the shootout style of the offense, and also for running the ball in late game situations to ice the game, because they couldn't, and they let North Dakota State basically get a Hail Mary off, will that haunt them going forward? All right, guys, let's really for Formula One, just saw qualifying. Lando Norris got pole. Like we expected. Now, not expected is Verstappen. He stayed in 5th. I believe he qualified 5th or 6th. And then, no, because Lewis got 6th. He got 1st in the second session, but in the 3rd session, I think something happened that last lap that he got 6th. But Norris and Piastri got front row lockout, first time since 2012 with Hamilton at the wheel. For McLaren. So, the last 14 of 15 Monza races have been won by the pole sitter. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, but I expect Norris not to give up that lead very easily. All right, let's get to college football predictions. The last thing I want to talk about before we get to this, Steph Curry got a $62.5 million 1-year contract extension because of the rule of over 38. He can't get more than 1 year, so they just squeezed everything into 1 year, $62.5 million. That puts him over $500 million career earnings, joining Kevin Durant and LeBron James. Listen, if Kuminga and Pajinski and Moody break out this year alongside Buddy Hield, being a shooter, and Pajinski supposedly gonna shoot 10 threes a game, this team could surprise. But at this point, until we see what is going on the court, it's just like the Lakers and it's just like the Suns. Like, we have to see if they're gonna compete with the OKCs and Denver and Timberwolves and Dallas. I think New Orleans is going to be better this year if you've seen Zion. Ja is back. I think it's going to be very, very interesting this year in the NBA. On the march for 50-50, Ohtani's at 43, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he'll definitely get there. On the pace for 63 for Judge, I believe he has 51 or 52. So he's definitely still has a shot at it. But I mean, it's insane that we're talking about Ohtani 50-50, and on the other side, these guys were in the same league last year. They cannibalized each other for an MVP, and now that they're just gonna dominate the MVP this year. All right, so college football, Clemson, Georgia. We're going Georgia. Just preseason number 1. First game of the season. I think that I think Georgia is primed to possibly go undefeated. It's going to be a tough road, but I do not see why Georgia will have any trouble with Clemson, even though Clemson's 14th ranked. Penn State, West Virginia. We're going Penn State. West Virginia is going to make it interesting, I think. We're going to see Drew Adler if he actually is a good quarterback this year. Last year he was kind of iffy, but I think he was a freshman. So we'll see if the offseason and learning the system fully, being comfortable being a college quarterback, we'll see if he's better in that respect. But Garrett Green for West Virginia, it's going to be a tough game in West Virginia with McAfee there. McAfee is going to be in Texas, but he was there yesterday. It was electric, so that's going to be interesting. Iowa versus Illinois State. I think Iowa gets it done. Let's see what the offense looks like, because the last 8 years, the offense has not been good. It's just been tight end central, and offensive line central. So we'll see if the defense is still the same level, and then the offense just a little bit better. If they can score 17 to 20 points, that would be a way better. Virginia Tech, Vanderbilt. We're going Virginia Tech there. Vanderbilt just perennially bad. They're just a smart school. UConn, Maryland. I'm gonna go with the Terps there. I just think Maryland's just a better football school at this point. Austin P, Louisville. We're going with Louisville. Indiana State, Purdue. We're going Purdue. Kent State, Pitt. We're going Pitt. Bucknell, Navy. We're going Navy. Chattanooga versus Tennessee. We're going Tennessee. South Dakota State versus Oklahoma State. We're going with the Cowboys on that one with Oklahoma State. Cincinnati, Towson. We're going with Towson. Portland State versus Washington State. We're going Washington State. We're going Cougs. Akron versus Ohio State. Ohio State. This is where we get to see what this supposedly best roster in Ohio State history, has, and what it looks like against Akron. This should be an absolute disgusting, just ass whooping. Colorado State versus Texas. We're going Texas. First game as an SEC school. UM versus UF in the swamp. We're going Miami, 19th ranked. They have Cam Ward that came from Washington State. I think this team is going to be really, really good, and Florida just has no. Listen, I'm a Gator, and I love my Gators, but we are not in the same ilk right now, quarterback-wise, receiver-wise, running back-wise, as mostly every school in the SEC, and I think Miami has a really good shot of making the playoffs this year. So unfortunately, Miami's going to win that one. FIU, Indiana slated to win this one. FIU's a plus 1,200. As a fellow Panther, I'm going to go Indiana here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to, smell the roses because there is none. Unfortunately, UTEP, Nebraska, we get to see Matt Rule's, a Nebraska team with Raiola, the number 1 QB in the country out of high school. We're going to go Nebraska there. We got Eastern Michigan, Massachusetts. I'm going to go UMass, even though it's only a 2.5 point spread. Appalachian State versus ETSU. We're going to go Appalachian State. North Dakota versus Iowa State. We're going to go with the Cyclones in Iowa State. Ohio versus Syracuse. We're going to go Syracuse. Kennesaw State versus UTSA. We're going University of San Antonio. UTSA. Merrimack versus Air Force. We're going Air Force. Miami of Ohio and Northwestern. We're going Northwestern. Northern Illinois versus Western Illinois. We're going NIU. Northern Illinois. Boise State versus Georgia Southern. We're going Boise. Old Dominion versus South Carolina. We're going Gamecocks. Stony Brook versus Marshall. We're going Marshall. UC Davis versus Cal Berkeley, California. The Golden Bears. We're going California. North Texas versus South Alabama. South Alabama -6 6-point favorite, so we're going with South Alabama here. Don't too much about those two teams. Eastern Kentucky versus Mississippi State. We're going with the Aggies here. We're going with Mississippi State. Campbell versus Liberty. We're going Liberty. Richmond versus Virginia and the Cavaliers. We're going Virginia. Norfolk State versus Eastern Carolina. We're going ECU, Eastern Carolina. Idaho State versus the Beavers in Oregon State. We're going Oregon State. And Western Kentucky versus Alabama is an absolute destruction fest of Alabama proportions for Jalen Milroe going after the Heisman and a high draft pick. Furman versus Ole Miss. We're going Ole Miss with no Kayshawn Judkins. He went to Ohio State, so we'll see what running back is for Ole Miss. Not that I expect they're going to have any trouble with Furman. UT San Martin versus Kansas State. We're going with Kansas State. Central Arkansas versus Arkansas State. We're going Arkansas State. Bethune-Cookman versus the Bulls of South Florida. We're going South Florida. Tarleton State and Baylor. We're going with the Bears and Baylor. UNLV versus Houston. We're going Houston. Tennessee Tech versus Middle Tennessee State. We're going Middle Tennessee State. Sam Houston versus Rice. We're going Rice. Nevada versus Troy. We're going Troy. North Alabama versus Memphis. We're going Memphis. Idaho versus Oregon. The Ducks in their first season in the Big Ten. We're going Oregon there. And Dylan Gabriel's first game as a Oregon Duck. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Number 7 versus number 20 in Texas. I'm going to give Freeman, the coach for Notre Dame, a benefit of the doubt in this game. Although Texas A&M is an SEC school and Kenny and Delco going to have them boys ready to play, I'm going to go Notre Dame, but I'm not expecting a blowout by any. If Texas A&M wins this game, it would not be surprising to me in the slightest. Fresno State, Michigan after the next era, after Harbaugh with Sharon Moore. Versus Fresno State. We got Michigan there. Alabama and A&M versus Auburn. We got Auburn. UCLA, Hawaii. We got UCLA. Abilene Christian versus Texas Tech. We got the Red Raiders, Texas Tech. Southern Miss versus Kentucky. We got Kentucky. Southern Illinois versus BYU. We got BYU. Georgia State versus Georgia Tech. We got Georgia Tech and Haynes King. Houston Christian versus SMU. We got SMU. Grambling versus Louisiana. We got Louisiana. Nichols versus Louisiana Tech. We got Louisiana Tech. Texas A&M Commonwealth versus San Diego State. We got San Diego State. We got the Aztecs. Robert Morris versus Utah State. We got Utah State. James Harrison versus Charlotte. We got James Madison. James Madison, not Harrison. Sorry about that. Lamar versus Texas State. We got Texas State. Southern Eastern Missouri versus New Mexico State. We got New Mexico State. New Mexico versus Arizona. We got Arizona. Wyoming versus Arizona State. We got Arizona State. And Weber State versus the Huskies in their first season in the Big Ten. We have the Huskies of Washington with their new coaching staff and the Belichick's there and the Pete Carrolls and everything like that. So that is official week 1 of college football. And then tomorrow on Sunday we have I actually went through the Sunday game. Oh no, it's tomorrow. We got USC LSU. I think LSU is gonna win that. We'll see what that team's made of. Their 13th preseason ranking. USC's 23. We'll see what Lincoln Riley does now that he is in a I wouldn't say bigger conference, I guess, in the Big Ten. And Boston College, Florida State, we're going with Florida State to bounce back against from the loss to Georgia Tech. We'll see what DJU does. That is it. I will break down the AFC West and the NFC West on the Tuesday's episode. I just wanted to get this quick one in, give you the predictions for college football. Talk about the Aiyuk contract, talk about the Steph Currys, talk about Mike Williams, but everything else seems like it's pretty steady heading into first NFL week of the season. In MLB, everything is tight except for the Brewers. The Brewers are running away with AL Central. No. With the NL Central, they're 10 games in front of the Cubs, I think. So that's done. That's completely done. Like, forget about that division. The Dodgers have a 5-game lead, so they've stretched it out a little bit over Arizona and San Diego. You got the Phillies have a 5-game lead on Atlanta and an 8-game lead on the Mets, so that's more for the wild card. That Atlanta, though, is starting to pick up some steam. Matt Olson started hitting a little bit. Houston has a 4-game lead on Seattle, but Seattle has looked like they're starting to get into an offensive rhythm. So we'll see coming down the stretch. Cleveland only has a 2.5-game lead on KC and a 3.5-game lead on Minnesota. I think KC, Vinny just went down for 6 to 8 weeks, so that's gonna be hurt. That's gonna hurt him a lot. But you know, maybe they can add somebody on the margins or somebody like that, or bring up somebody that can pick up at least a little bit of that slack, because you're leaving basically 100 RBIs with a broken thumb, not being able to play and help Bobby Witt. So we'll see who steps up for them. The Yankees have a 1.5 games up on Baltimore, and when we go to the wild card, we got Baltimore up 4 games over Minnesota. KC's only 1 game up, with Boston being 3.5 games back of Minnesota. So that's starting to really like separate themselves. Seattle's 4.5 games back. Detroit's 6 games back, playing pretty well, but you know, 6 games is a bit. And then in the National League, you got Arizona and San Diego 2 games up on Atlanta, and the Mets 3 games back of Atlanta. Chicago 5 games back, and I think even the Giants at 6.5 games back is just a little too much right now. Bobby Witt's he's still leading the average, but he dropped down at 10 points. He's at 341 from 350. 11 points from 352 that he was. Jordan is at 312. Vladdy's at 321. Judge is at 331. So it ebbs and flows, but they're staying over 300. Judge is at 51 home runs. Ohtani's at 43. Judge is at 123 RBIs. Ramirez at 104. Vinny, who just got hurt, is at 97. He's fifth in the league. Hits, Bobby's still at 185. Altuve's at 160, so that 200 number is right there. It'd be legendary for him. Ellie De La Cruz still hasn't stolen a base in the last 4 days. He's still at 61. I don't know what he's waiting for. Ohtani's second with 43, so he's at 43. Tarek Skubal has 15 wins. Chris Sale has 15 wins. Those are 2 Cy Young winners without. I mean, they have literally the same ERA, 2.58 for the season each. Like, you couldn't pick a better 1-2 for Cy Young. Chris Sale has 197 strikeouts. Dylan Cease has 197 strikeouts, and Tarek Skubal has 193. They're all going to reach 200. I believe even Cole Reagans and Garrett Crochet will reach 200 strikeouts, so at least 5 pitchers with 200 strikeouts this year. Logan Gilbert has the most quality starts with 21. Zach Wheeler has 20. Seth Lugo has 19. Corbin Burns has 19, but he's gotten hit a little bit. And Tanner Houck has 19. He's gotten hit a little bit as well. But other than that, I appreciate you guys for joining in episode 134, a little quick hitter right here with predictions of the college football weekend. And I love you guys. God bless you. And I leave you guys with the outro. By the way, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on all my socials. And I love you guys. Peace.
Que todos quieren ser el chamaquito que no puede